is the award-winning Leominster Access Television.
This program is made possible by a grant from New England Benefits Group, Incorporated. Unique solutions for employee benefits.
Hello and welcome to In Business, the show all about small businesses here in our own wonderful community of Leominster. I'm your host, Susan Gagne. Today I have two special guests. Actually, they're invited guests because I thought we have so many manufacturing and production businesses here in Leominster. It was very important to have these guests from DC Systems come in and speak to the issues that particular industry faces today. Would you please welcome Pierre Aubuchon and Don Hills from DC Systems Incorporated. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming and joining us here on In Business.
Thank you, Susan. Pleasure to be with you.
I always start with the easy questions. Where are you located and how can someone reach you?
Two offices, one in Westminster, Massachusetts, a second in Cape Elizabeth, Maine, just outside of Portland.
And that would be you, Don.
That is me.
And Pierre, you're the one in Westminster.
In Westminster, correct.
And you also have a very, very extensive website, and I know Carl's going to flash that on the screen for our viewers. Would you please give us that?
The website address is www.dcsysinc.com.
Okay, DC Systems Inc., sysinc.com. And like I said, please go on it for the people out there that have manufacturing and production facilities or jobs. It's very easy to navigate. It has just an unbelievable amount of really awesome information on warehouse management.
Correct.
So that's what you gentlemen do. Who'd like to start and kind of tell our viewers what that really means?
Well, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Pierre, jump in at any moment.
Thank you.
Warehouse management can involve quite a bit of functionality, or it can be scaled down and be something relatively simple, inexpensive, and easy to implement. And we've kind of covered that whole spectrum at a variety of accounts. Done things very simple as inventory control, inventory management, that takes a company from spreadsheets to moving that onto computers, and at the other extreme as far as full warehouse management, which means inventory control as well as tracking productivity of workers, considering safety implications of software that essentially manages the entire warehouse operation from inbound receipts through inventory control throughout the facility through actually shipping the product out to your suppliers.
Okay, so basically you follow the whole trail of when something comes in to when something's shipped out.
That's correct.
And you want to make sure that that's efficient as possible.
Correct. Three things to consider: quality, safety, productivity.
Sure.
Typically, productivity is the one most companies will focus on. Looking for return on investment, and usually the quickest way to get that when you're investing in software and hardware is to focus on productivity.
Right.
And quality, of course, is in many instances equally as important, because often companies are being, I don't want to say punished, but are being penalized by their suppliers if they're not shipping at proper quality levels.
Oh, sure.
So software helps with chargebacks and reduce shipping errors.
And I didn't realize when I spoke to you earlier that a lot of companies are charged for chargebacks. So if I ship out an order and it's incorrect, that company's going to penalize me a certain percentage. I didn't realize that.
Sometimes it's enormous amounts of money. If you're providing product to large chain retailers, the chargebacks would be enormous and literally can pay for the software within a year.
It's amazing. So I think nowadays what it's just so important where you have a lot of costs that are elevating to look for these efficiencies, and if you can squeeze that productivity out by using, like you said, the software, which is everybody has now, it's a win-win.
We find as we go in to visit customers, it is apparent to us that many people, a simple thing is a locator system. As the product either comes in the door, excuse me, or comes off the manufacturing line, where that product is located within the facility, a lot of our customers, before we install the software, don't know.
Just don't know.
So if you need a product to put into manufacturing, if it's work in process material, if it's product finished goods, it's going out the door to a customer. When the order comes in, they can't actually find the product. It takes an army of people to find the product.
And look what the wasted man hours are.
Well as increasing inventory, because oftentimes if the product's lost, not only it's the time spent trying to find it, but you'll reorder the product. And all of a sudden your reserve stock, safety stock just builds up, and you're losing money on carrying cost of inventory.
Because who can't relate to, you go somewhere and you ask, is such and such a thing in stock, and they go back in that warehouse and they don't have a clue. They don't have a clue. So the customer is unhappy. They're back there, you know, looking for the needle in the haystack, and they're probably going to come back and go, I don't have it. So there's lost sales. That's a lose-lose situation.
Well, and lead times go up as well. They may have it, but it takes them an extra day to fulfill the order, which does nothing but irritate the person further down the supply chain.
That's right. So can you go into what some of the things you have here to maybe elaborate on what you were talking about? These are barcodes or UPC codes. Are they kind of the same?
Well, barcodes are basically the same as a UPC. Barcode is a generic term used to, it's a symbology.
Right, right.
And what you see on these barcodes is the actual barcode itself, but underneath it's called human readable. So really all the barcode is a representation of the human readable that's underneath it. Now some of it has very nice colors on it to help people look at them and orient themselves. But for the most part, when a barcode is scanned, it's either numbers or letters that are inputted directly into the handheld device, into a computer, and it guarantees you quality.
And this is what would replace paper labels everywhere or just boxes stacked everywhere?
And when you go to the grocery store and you're checking out of the grocery store and the person is spinning the can or passing product by that scanner, it is reading the UPC, the Universal Product Code.
Right.
That scanner is tied to a computer. The computer says, oh, yes, that is a can of Campbell's soup. And it's the chicken noodle soup. And up comes the price on the machine with the description. But a lot of people don't know is in the background, that computer is registering that sale, and there's an ordering system behind it that will replace the inventory on the shelf when it reaches the reorder point. So there's a lot going on in the background. But it wouldn't be any different than, and when you bring some produce, some of the produce does not have a barcode on it or a number. So they look it up and they choose the one they want. All it does is replace the manual lookup. It gives you instantaneous access to the item.
Like you said, you can hold one of these, which is actually a computer system, and utilize that code. Can you go through how someone would do this in their warehouse?
One of the terms you'll hear is paperless, and that comes up quite often when you're discussing warehouse management. And essentially, the term refers to the fact that you're no longer sending a worker on the floor with a document on a clipboard and a pen to go find a product based on a description on the paper, perhaps record a quantity shipped. Paperless implies that the document now is really stored in this computer. It appears on the screen, and if you use picking order fulfillment as an example, if item A needs to be shipped to a supplier, it'll appear on this screen. The item description, the location description will appear. The worker looks at the location description, goes to that part of the warehouse, and essentially looks at the racking, will see a barcode similar to this, and shoot the barcode with the device. The device will say, yes, that's the correct barcode, or it may say, no, that's the incorrect one, in which case the worker stops and looks for the correct location. Once the correct barcode for the location is scanned, they can pick the product out and then scan the actual item itself. That will, at that point, record the inventory transaction and confirm to the worker they're in fact holding the correct item to be shipped.
Because you said, for instance, this would help if people have a lot of employees that may not be fluent in English, where this facilitates that instead of they may not be able to understand the printed English words, but they can understand what that screen is telling them, yes or no. Or,
And what you've done is you've basically brought the process down to, you ask the person to go to a location, and it really doesn't matter if you're picking product, if you're moving product from one location in the warehouse to a different location in the warehouse, if you're receiving product into that location, it really all comes down to the same process. Scan the location, scan the product, do what it tells you to do. So we have customers who really have had quite a bit of temporary help that are non-English speaking. They've installed these systems, and their productivity has increased markedly, very quickly.
that's what I would like to get to, because I'm a person, I love examples. You're in Aubuchon, you did it for your own family's business, Aubuchon Hardware. Could you use that as an example for our viewers?
Well, we could, but we actually have some better examples.
Okay. Probably want to toot his own horn, but okay. How about you did it for a plastics company here in Leominster?
A variety of industries here in Leominster. Probably one of the better examples is in a jewelry manufacturer, where it's a very pick intensive industry where they're picking just literally hundreds of thousands of very small pieces. The productivity for that is typically very bad, because you're not picking one case, you're maybe picking 100 individual pieces, and then distributing that across hundreds and hundreds of orders within any given day. They can be done in a variety of ways. Some involve very expensive material handling equipment, carousel type pick-to-light systems, or it can be done with software, which was the option that this company chose and brought us in to do so. And I hate to throw specific numbers out because I'll probably get them wrong, but the picking literally went up an order of magnitude from what was being picked on a per-hour basis. I mean, it was absolutely dramatic. And as well, the quality went up to near as close as you can get to 100%.
Okay.
So that happened to be the customer that was using temporary non-English speaking help.
Okay.
And as a result, the cost of the implementation literally was paid for within about a year. I mean,
see, that's important. You know, you can amortize that. So I mean, there's tax benefits to making capital improvements, but there's also efficiencies that come out in the bottom line, like you said.
Oh, absolutely. They're not always that tangible. Oftentimes, sometimes it needs to be more anecdotal.
Well, they don't know what they're paying to begin with. That's the problem. You know, they're going along as business as usual. Oftentimes, you know, a lot of smaller manufacturing companies use family, which they love them, but they may not be the most qualified, so they're kind of muddling through, doing the best they possibly can, but they're not really doing the business any favors in the long run.
Well, in a family business and smaller businesses, it's also easier to make the decision to get into this technology, because common sense often prevails, where you don't have to appease to a board of directors or stockholders. So it's easier to say, I know this makes sense, let's do it.
And the family businesses, you know, they've been doing it a certain way for years, and the second generation, the third generation follows the lead from the previous generation.
Very typical in Leominster.
Very typical in a family business, and this breaks the mold from some of those issues. We did a fairly large implementation for a local plastics company and manufacturer, and material is coming off the production line and it's going into their warehouse, and they have no idea where it is.
Because wasn't that warehouse, didn't you say it was like a quarter of a mile long? So I mean...
Huge warehouse.
1.2 million square feet with aisles that are a quarter mile long, and things get lost just very quickly. You know.
And they just make more.
Right, because it's cheap.
Because
in the beginning it is.
In the beginning it is.
But you end up filling up your warehouse, and space becomes an issue, because often cube utilization becomes issues. You quickly fill up with things you don't even know where they are any longer, and making more isn't an option at that point, because you have nowhere to put it.
Right.
So it really speaks to keeping track of what you do have.
So can you speak about that plastics company at all, and what you were able to accomplish there?
It's a local company, Sterilite, family-owned business, all over the country. And we, I believe, did about